Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today I am definitely looking forward to this combination of shotgun, choke, and shell because it should give us some really impressive looking results if it all works out right. This is a relatively new shotgun to us. It'll only be the second time I've tested it on the channel, and with these new shells, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what we can get from it. But as for those shells I brought out here today, I got some of these, the Rocky Ridge TSS loads, but these ones are a 28 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 1 5/8 ounce payload of TSS 9s. Now the box does not claim a velocity, but I will pop it up over here on the screen once I look it up on their website to see what it is. But a lot of you guys have been wanting to see some Rocky Ridge stuff, and I've got a bunch of them in different varieties, shells, gauges, and stuff. So for today, we'll see what the TSS 9s can actually give us through today's setup. And as for that setup, I brought out this guy, which is my Tristar Viper 28 gauge. I recently picked this up, and we've only done one test with it so far with some pretty solid looking results. And I know these are good patterning shotguns generally, but as for the choke, we've got a Carlson's Turkey 520 constriction choke in here. It's not any of their fancy heavyweight TSS or Longbeard XR choke or whatever. It's just their standard 520 turkey choke. So nothing fancy going on here, but I've heard a lot of good things about this choke, so I had to pick one up to see what they could do. And with these Rocky Ridge shells, this should be a pretty nice performing combination. So we'll see what we can get. But as for our test today, everything is set up the same as usual. The turkey paper is at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shells. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what the Rocky Ridge 1 5/8 ounce 9s can do through the Tristar Viper and Carlson's 520. In theory, this should be a pretty good performing combination, but let's take our shot and see what kind of a pattern it gives us. Alright, so that shell gave us 1075 through the chrono. Again, I'll pop up their website claim here on the side of the screen so you can see how close we were. So this is pretty much what I would expect to see, all things considered here. And I will say, that was a pretty spicy load for a 28 gauge in the recoil department. It's not going to knock your shoulder off by any means, but for a 28, that was the hottest shell I've shot so far out of that shotgun. But as far as velocity goes, nothing really unexpected up here. But what kind of a pattern did that combo give us down at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper. I definitely hit just a little bit low here. It is a new shotgun to me that I only have 5 or 6 rounds through, so I'm still getting used to it a little bit as far as where my bead needs to be at. Either way, we see a pretty decent pattern here overall. The Birchwood Casey doesn't really do it justice. Again, a lot of these new ones kind of still suck, but I'll give you guys a little bit closer up view so you can see here. What's on the turkey paper there is a very nice even spread of pellets. It doesn't necessarily have a super hot condensed tight core area, but the middle 10 or 12 inches of that pattern there are beautifully even, and that would absolutely take a turkey at 40 yards all day long without a question. Now backing out and looking at the rest of the pattern, once again it's kind of a diagonal oblong shape. It's not necessarily a perfect circle, which is kind of what we saw the first time we tested this shotgun a couple weeks ago with some Apex Ninja shells, is a little bit of a diagonal oblong oval of a pattern. So I'm definitely curious to see if that trend continues with that particular shotgun or not. But we definitely open it up a little bit around the edges here without a doubt. It's not blown out necessarily, but it does give us a little bit more of a broad and maybe a little splotchy of a pattern around the very edges. We might have a couple of flyers down there low on the paper. So overall for this pattern, I wouldn't be scared to turkey hunt with it the way it is, but I definitely think we can get better from these Rocky Ridge shells as well. And maybe something like a TSS 8 shot might do a little bit better, or at least a little bit more even or circular of a pattern through that 520, since it is a little bit more on the open side than something like a 515 would be out of a 28 gauge. And we do have a 20 gauge type of payload with 1 5/8 ounce worth of shot in those Rocky Ridge shells. So maybe something like a 515 might really dial these in just a little bit more. Either way, it's a perfectly usable turkey pattern the way it is, but definitely a little bit of an interesting shape at the same time. But it definitely gives me hope that we've got a good shell and a good choke here. So overall, that is not a terrible pattern, but I think we can refine a few things as well. Maybe a little bit larger of a pellet size through that 520, maybe running these Rocky Ridge 9s through a 515. Something like that I think is really going to work out for us. And here's the wad out of that shell. Definitely nothing fancy or nothing special going on. It definitely did not snag on anything. There's no major damage. There's nothing stuck down in there. And it opened up pretty close to perfectly even. So looks very much normal. Nothing out of the ordinary that I wouldn't expect to see here. So I think the wad did what it was supposed to do for us through this combination. All right, y'all. Well, what do you think about that result right there? Definitely a turkey killing pattern at 40 yards. I wouldn't hesitate to turkey hunt with that just the way it is. That's absolutely going to get the job done. It is a little bit of an interesting shape, being that kind of oblong, diagonal, oval looking pattern. And we did see that a couple weeks ago when we tested the Apex Ninjas through it as well. So is it just something with that particular shotgun that makes our patterns a little bit oblong? I don't know. Could very well just be luck of the draw. But we'll see what happens as we continue to test it. Either way, it's a pretty solid performance overall. It's a very even spread throughout 80% of the pattern, except for the very corners and edges that kind of opened us up just a little bit. But that core area is really nice. It's not super tight, but it's not blown open either. There's really no voids in it whatsoever, even though the Birchwood Casey didn't really give us a fantastic looking picture of what went on there. I can tell you that whole central 10 to 12 inches is perfect, really. So definitely not a bad start at all here today, but I definitely think we can still do a little bit of tuning and refining with this shell and this choke. So although it might not be as perfect as what it could be, we've got a very solid pattern to work off of here. So leave all your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of that Rocky Ridge 28 gauge ammo or Carlson's 520 choke? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? And what other shells or choke combos do you want to see us run in 28 gauge? Let me know what you guys want to see and I'll see what I can do. At the end of the day, there's not a whole lot to complain about other than maybe just being a little picky on the shape of it. If we had that pattern to be a little bit more circular, then hey, that would be a very nice hunting pattern right there all day long. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys. As always, we've got the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.